Disclaimer. I am a law student, and the legal information provided is not legal advice. For that, please hire an attorney. So, some people have already covered this. I figured I would give my own spin on it. I mean, like, hey, you know, this is discussion about trans people. I might as well throw in my two cents. You know, because kind of relevant. I have a perspective that you know, is kind of important. I feel when we're talking about trans issues, being a trans woman. So let's see what she said. The name of Blaire's video is J.K. Rowling said, "I am biologically male." All right, well, we're getting a 2-for-1 here. Talking about J.K. Rowling, and we're talking about Blaire White. So we're getting a 2-for-1 deal. So let's see what she's got to say.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So the title of this video, yeah, we know, water's wet, but I actually am going to be ranting in this video. This is something I am super passionate about. This video is going to be in regards to the huge fiasco between J.K. Rowling and the trans community. I'm putting that in quotation marks for a specific reason. I'll tell you why in a second. I wasn't originally going to do a video on this topic, but I am seeing a whole lot of BS on social media right now, and I feel like, damn it, let me just weigh in. And there's some things I need to get off of my chest. Not these though, they're too expensive. Now this huge fiasco that is officially labeled J.K. Rowling as transphobic stemmed from these 3 tweets by Rowling. And I'm just gonna go ahead and state my opinion before I even read these tweets. I, as a trans woman, did not find these offensive or transphobic at all. Literally at all. Now if you're...
Okay, first off, let's pay special attention to what tweets she cites, because there's one tweet where literally J.K. Rowling, like, I mean, there's a lot of them, right? But one of them where literally she compares, like, trans identity to conversion therapy, right? In fact, you know what? Hold on. We don't need to just talk about it in the abstract. Also, if someone can get me the tweet and link it in my Discord, that would also be very convenient. So, let's see. I tweet a lot. I'm sorry if people notice that. I've been trying to figure out, like, how much is an appropriate amount to tweet. But, like, I've just really gotten into it lately. Where are you? No. Someone, give me the tweet. Hurry. Because I really want it here. Oh. I finished She-Ra, if people want it. Like, yeah, it's actually super great. Oh, got it. Yeah. So here's a tweet that J.K. Rowling posted, right? Many, myself included, believe we are watching a new kind of conversion therapy for young gay people who are being set on a lifelong path of medicalization that may result in the loss of their fertility and/or full sexual function. Without talking about the rest of the shit that she's posted, like, if we just look at this in an isolated instance, like, not only does it make no fucking sense, right, to say that, like, oh, well, if someone is, like, super homophobic, then you know what will make those parents, those homophobic parents who don't want to accept their gay child, you know what will make them really happy? By like, making their child trans. Yeah, no, that's totally 100% logically coherent, right? Aside from that, there's just, like, a degree of insult by trying to insinuate that trans identity is another form of conversion therapy, right? Like, we just know that is, like, objectively the definition of transphobia, right? So before we get into, like, Blaire's arguments, I want to keep, like, a special eye if she cites this or other tweets that J.K. Rowling has put out that are, like, explicitly transphobic. Like, no denying, no arguing about it.
Of the opinion that J.K. Rowling is transphobic or these tweets are transphobic, I asked you just for a second to really analyze them with me, because I, as a trans woman, cannot find the transphobia. So these tweets read as, if sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't...
This is all just a straw man, by the way. People aren't saying that sex isn't real. People say that sex is on, like, the academic consensus. Again, let's go over it just to make sure that everyone is on the same level, all right? First, people say that, like, the first argument, according to this scientific consensus, right, is that biological sex does not determine your gender identity. That's the first part. Like, there's no degree of biological sex which determines whether or not you are a man, a woman, or something else, right? So that's first. And then secondly, the vast scientific consensus is that biological sex as a term is, to a degree, scientific fiction. What we know, so based on a couple things, right? First, we know that from this graphic that was published in Scientific American, that we know more about the ambiguous and bimodal nature of sex, and that sex is not as simple as XX or XY. We know that biological sex is on a bimodal distribution, not a direct binary. Additionally, here's a quote from a publication in Sage Journals on the modern scientific attitudes on human sex. Quote, "The view that the world's population can be separated into a clearly defined dyadic unit of male and female is defunct. Not only clinical observations, but molecular biology has established that sexual identity is on a continuum with an enormous potential for variance." This is important because we know that the modern scientific consensus is that the binary terms, or binary terms like biological male and biological female, are scientific fiction. And so trans women are not biologically male, and vice versa for trans men. That's the scientific consensus, right? And that's all that people on the left are saying, right? We're just following the science. No more, no less. All right? So we're not saying, but mind you, that's different from saying that sex is not real, because we're acknowledging that sex is real. It's just that it exists on a spectrum with a lot of variance in between. That's it. All right? So when J.K. Rowling is saying this, it's completely a straw man.
I hate to speak the truth. So far, I'm not seeing any transphobia. This is all true.
You gotta love the science denialism, right? You gotta love the science denialism. Also, holy shit, the top chat is 169. Pog.
Biological sex is real. I know that there are certain segments of the population that do not believe that biological sex is real. I know that there is a very harsh stereotype on the trans community that we are science deniers and that we don't believe in biological sex. I am biologically male. Cue the title. That's just a fact. I am a trans.
You gotta love the projection, right? You gotta love the projection. The irony of saying that you're not a science denier, but that like there are people in the trans community who are, not being able to recognize that you are in fact the science denier here. You gotta love that irony.
Woman, if you are a trans man, you are biologically female. That's kind of the whole point. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there was no starting point, which is...
Oh yeah, Zan. No, this is actually important. Let's talk about this. Also, this is why I love using Discord. Yeah, I know Zan, that you talked about it a little bit on your stream, right? But just so that people are aware, a lot of the people like that J.K. Rowling has associated with, I know that Magdalene Burns has gone on to misgender Blaire White in multiple instances, and that's what this is citing, right? I've done 3 responses on videos to Miss Blaire White. Agree with him on some points, but women are adult human females, so not that, right? So this is also great art. This is like also a great argument as to why J.K. Rowling is transphobic, because she has previously associated with people who have gone out of their way to misgender Blaire White and other trans people. So yeah, cool evidence. Thank you for thanks for contributing that. And also, wow, the Discord on my stream is actually working out really well. I really appreciate that. Let's go on.
Just being biologically male, why would I ever need to transition? Anyways, the idea that women like me, who've been empathetic to trans people for decades, feeling kinship because they're vulnerable in the same way as women, i.e. to male violence, hate trans people because they think sex is real and have lived consequences, is nonsense. And I completely agree. What she's basically communicating here is that, like, yes, there are definitely similarities between the struggle of trans women and women in general, I suppose. There's definitely...
Again, no one is saying that sex isn't real. We just agree with the majority scientific consensus that sex is on a bimodal distribution, that sex is not as clear as XX and XY. That's it. And if you want to argue something contrary to that, then congratulations, you're a science denier. That's the full calculus of it. That's it. That's all of it. That's all of it. And if you try to say that the left has some other view, then it's just straw manning. And yeah, if you are arguing against like a straw man position of like an unreasonable version of the left, then of course you're going to seem like the reasonable person in comparison.
Parallels, but it's not wrong to make distinctions where there may be differences. I, as a trans woman, have no idea what it's like to grow up and, have your period or to be socialized as a girl, as a child. That's just not part of my experience, and I can't pretend that it was. The world did not start recognizing me as a woman until I was 20 years old when I transitioned. So that's 20 years of experiences that I cannot relate to because I did not grow up a girl. Why exactly is it transphobic to say that?
What does that matter? It literally doesn't matter. I mean, if we're going off of like a Judith Butler version of what it means to be a certain gender, then what determines what gender you are is just objectively, in this moment, how larger society or how you are treated in any given space, right? Like how other people objectively treat you. That is a completely culturally based, and it is an objective definition, but it can change based on context within society. Here's the hot take from me. That's the reason why a lot of like, if you want to call it trans activism, I don't like using that, because now these people like Blaire and Ariel and all of them have loaded that term with so much stigma that it's hard to use anymore. But like people who go out and do activism for trans people, especially people who try to push the bounds on like what it means to be X gender, by shifting the definition on what it means to be a woman or a man or whatever, you are, in essence, like if we're going off of a Judith Butler sort of interpretation of what gender means, you are shifting what it means to be that gender, right? Because you're shifting what the average person in society would think that like the totality of qualities of a person together would mean to be of that gender, right? Like if you have people, a great example, right, is if you start normalizing the idea of women having like slightly deeper voices, right? Then, or just like deep voices in general, then eventually you get to the point where if the average person in society thinks that voice does not necessarily determine whether or not you're a woman or a man or whatever, then congratulations, you've objectively shifted the definition on what it means to be a woman, at least in that very particular respect, right? That's sort of what that means, right? And so it doesn't really matter how you are raised. I mean, like, I guess to some extent it does for your own personal benefit, right? But it doesn't really have anything to do with like who you are today. So yeah, I don't see any relevance to this argument.
She continues to say, I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female. I do not believe it's hateful to say so.
Also, this happened very, very close in proximity, close in time to when Trump announced that the Trump administration would stop interpreting Title IX to include protections on the basis of being trans. So, pretty explicit example of discrimination against trans people. Anyone here, if she ended up marching with trans people when this happened, when the president literally took away the rights of trans people to be protected under law? Did that happen? No. It's a trick question. No, she didn't. She doesn't actually mean any of this because she just kind of is transphobic.
100%. So what I'm confused about, and here's the biggest thing, you guys, go look for yourself. In the thread and all the replies to J.K. Rowling, it is almost exclusively trans people agreeing with her and non-trans people wanting to play Captain Save-A-Ho, White Knight, and be offended on our behalf.
Hold on. That's a falsifiable claim. A lot of if you look in the comments, a lot of it is trans people agreeing with her. Hold on, that's a falsifiable claim. Let's take some looks at that. The first one is Vaj. The gender critical argument that transition is itself conversion therapy is false, dangerous, and evil. Firstly, there's absolutely no science to back this up. True. Holy shit. All right. What if I just throw my legacy in the trash? Gynecologist here. There's so much misinformation, disinformation in this thread. Here is the link to some accurate information. You're not a doctor, you're not a therapist, you're not a trans person, you are not the parent of a trans child. As far as I know, you have no personal or professional skin in this game. Please stop concern trolling. You are actively harming an already marginalized community. Couldn't have put it better. Yeah, so, oh, hold on. Yes, and more yes. I am a critical care registered nurse, and the info J.K. Rowling in this tweeting is medically flat out. Oh, medically is... Oh, they're responding here. Yeah, it's... So I'm a critical care registered nurse, and the info J.K. Rowling is tweeting is medically flat out wrong. When will people like her stop pretending that they have medical knowledge because they watched a documentary and Googled some crap? She is wrong. True. Holy shit. All right, so yeah, no, that's just a lie. Way to not include, like... Oh, future content. Spoilers for later on in the stream. Yeah, way to include just, like, something completely objectively wrong without bringing any evidence to show that. If she doesn't show a single tweet, then I'm just gonna say that she just is completely being just disingenuous here.
Because despite the stereotype of trans people being science deniers, I don't know any trans women or men who deny that biological sex is a thing, that they are biologically a sex that is different from the way they present and are represented to the world. That's the whole point. I do know, however...
I think Zan talked about this a little bit in his chat, or in his video, so I won't belabor the point. But she just made the argument that biological sex is the whole point of being trans. And that is sort of a self-defeating argument, right? Because if you're transitioning from one thing that is some sort of biological category to another, that implies that eventually you do get to the other category. That if you do start out as biological male, then eventually you get to biological female. So yeah, when you say, that's the whole point, but then in the same breath insinuate that you are biological male. Actually, I didn't, like, she just clearly said that earlier in the video, so, like, I don't even have to argue by insinuation, right? It's just inherently contradictory. So which is it? Are you biologically female because you started out biologically male and transitioned to female, as that's the whole point? Or are you, as you said earlier, biologically male? You can't have it both ways. You've made two completely different arguments. Mind you, both of which are wrong in their own merits, but one being more wrong than the other.
A whole lot of trans allies, right, who feel the opposite on behalf of us and think that's the right thing to do. George Takei is a really good example, attacking J.K. Rowling, saying, when you defend so-called biological sex, you sound scientifically ignorant and you elevate transphobia.
True. Although, I don't know. I've heard that George Takei has had, like, some variously yikesy takes in the past, but, like, this is pretty good. This is pretty good.
How? When did believing that transgender people are valid mean denying science? How is...
The only one who is denying science here, well, I guess two people, are you and J.K. Rowling, and anyone who agrees with you. Period. We've already shown the receipts, so there's no more burden of proof on our end, and she has given, like, not a single iota of evidence to prove anything that she said so far.
The concept of biological sex ignorant? What are you talking about? The funniest part to me is that trans people do not agree with this. Mars, a prominent trans guy YouTuber, said, do us transsexuals a favor and sit this one out. You're...
Hold on. I love this. This is actually perfect. I didn't even... Oh my god. I've debated Mars. And if people haven't watched that debate already, you should go. Because I think it's pretty objectively clear to the average person watching that this is not exactly a person worth taking seriously, right? So there's that. And secondly, also, prominent trans guy YouTuber. I'm literally, like, even now, I have, like, 3 times as many subs as him. I think he still has 1,000. And when I debated him, I only had, like, a couple hundred more than him, and I've just, like, pulled so far away from him at this point. I probably will continue to. So, yeah, you gotta love that shout out to try and help your other people who, you know, are equally just as much science deniers as you, but who ideologically agree with you.
Embarrassing not only yourself, but us too. That was in response to George Takei. You have Buck Angel, who responded and got way more likes than George, by the way, saying, I disagree with you. I am a transsexual man. Transitioned from a woman to man 25 years ago. I am and will forever be a biological female. How is this so hard to understand? If I was not a biological female, then I would not be transsexual. It's dangerous to discount biology.
Gotta love to see it. You gotta love to see it. It's like the whole gang is here. All you need is Rose of Dawn, and you've got, like, a bingo right there for you. You've got Transmed True Scum bingo. I just want to toss this out there. Like, people are always, like, looking for evidence for whether or not, like, Buck Angel is, like, Transmed or True Scum or whatever. This seems like pretty definitive evidence. I'm not gonna say anything more on it. He's wrong. We've already, like, beaten that into the ground. Let's go on.
100%. Why are you fighting this fight on our behalf and furthering and perpetuating the stereotype that we are science deniers? Y'all can choose to deny science, but don't do it on our behalf. You know,
You're the only ones denying science.
there's a stereotype that trans people just can't handle anything, that we're just so emotionally weak and we deny science and, you know, we're just perpetual victims. Honestly, I don't even think we did that. I don't even think we created that stereotype, because all the trans people I know are some of the strongest people I've ever met. They're people that have gone through a lot, people who have fought really hard to be themselves, and they're not offended by the concept of biological sex. They don't, you know.
Can I just, like, point out how she, like, made this argument that, like, other trans people who disagree with her are offended, when she's literally, like, taking the most offended position out of anyone who's, like, who takes this sort of position. Like, the argument that other trans people are the ones who are offended. Literally, she and J.K. Rowling have gone, like, on entire, like, tirades trying to hold down on this position. Like, they are the most easily offended snowflake fucking conservatives I've ever seen. You gotta love this. I mean, like, conservatives always will do this. Or I shouldn't, like, speak... I'm sorry. I shouldn't speak too broadly. I have a family of people who are conservative who may or may not get a little offended sometimes. Just saying. Something that you all could work on. But I always love it when people who are more conservative will insinuate that, like, liberals or leftists or whoever, like, mind you, liberal meaning, like, someone even like, anyone who's even, like, slightly to the left than they are. You gotta love that whenever they insinuate this, they can't possibly perceive that, like, they are infinitely more offended than those people could ever possibly be. You gotta love it. Let's go on.
Faint over people talking about biology. However, a lot of trans allies and celebrities who like to fight for us without ever asking us how we feel love to be offended by it. And, you know, the narrative is that J.K. Rowling is just so hateful for talking about this and just such a hater and so bigoted. And then you have responses like this one from Ben O'Keefe responding saying, "This woman is complete scum. Shut the fuck up, you transphobic fuck. You don't know or love any trans people if you won't even acknowledge their existence. Thank you for ruining the books of my childhood. Just stop talking. We know you're a TERF. You don't need to keep doing this." When did she deny
True! Oh my god, I fucking love it. I love that she's reading all of these things that are just, like, objectively correct and just being like, what is up with all these people, like, dogpiling on her? Like, why are all these people calling her out and saying the exact same thing? You know, it can't possibly be that they're all, you know, objectively right and agreeing that she's saying things that are wrong and hurtful to the trans community. No, these are all just, they're all just being completely unreasonable people. They're all, like, everyone is unreasonable, except for me and J.K. Rowling, I guess. Okay.
Trans people's existence because she has a different opinion about the existence of trans people. An opinion that trans people, for the most part, hold.
Okay, hold on. I have to talk about this, because I've heard this argument many other times before, right? This idea, like, this came up in my debate, in my debate with Mars about Ariel, right? This idea that, like, well, listen, you shouldn't be so mean to Ariel just because she holds a different opinion, right? People are allowed to have different opinions. That doesn't mean that people have a right to, like, dogpile on them on the internet. Let's be clear about some things, right? And these are the examples I use. I'm going to go full screen for this because this is its own conversation. Let's say, hypothetically, that you are talking to someone who's a misogynist, right? You're talking to someone who believes that the place for women is in the kitchen or otherwise in the home, right? Are they correct, or is their opinion worth respecting by virtue of the fact that yours, being someone who does not agree with them, is different from theirs? Or let's change the hypothetical and let's make it someone who believes in, like, race realism, or who's just otherwise a racist, right? Is their opinion worth respecting just by virtue of the fact that yours is different from theirs? Or let's just fucking take it all the way. Let's say that that person's just an out and about Nazi, right? Let's just say that they're a fucking Nazi. And let's say that they bring up the Jewish question, and let's say that they bring up, like, all of these different things, which are just, like, completely deplorable ideas. Does the fact that they have a different opinion than yours mean that it's worth respecting? And the answer is obviously, of course not, right? Just because someone has a different opinion from yours does not mean that opinion is worth respecting, period. And now I want to take up a different point, right? Like, a lot of people will think that freedom of speech, right, especially in America under, like, a First Amendment standard, means that you have an unabridged, completely unabated freedom to say whatever you want without consequence, right? And that's just not true, right? There are multiple Supreme Court decisions and I'll probably have to update my research doc because I didn't anticipate this argument coming up. Yeah. But I've done this before, so if you want more information on this, go watch my debate with Mars, because I'm pretty sure I made the argument there as well. But to be brief, the Supreme Court has said on multiple prior occasions that the First Amendment does not give you a completely unabridged freedom to say whatever you want. There are limits, right? One of those limits being that you aren't allowed to say specifically actionable hate speech, right? Specifically actionable meaning that you are not allowed to say things which could possibly lead or would directly lead to someone being harmed in a disparate way, right? Holy shit. Thank you for donating. Really appreciate it. And I'll explain ESO one day, I promise. But anyway, when you are talking about... Damn, I have to get back on my train of thought now. Y'all, don't distract me. Wait till after to donate. But anyway... What is important is that actionable hate speech usually means like saying to another group of people, hey, we're going to go out and kill persons X, Y, and Z at X place and Y time, right? That's usually specifically actionable hate speech. But what the Supreme Court has also said, and mind you, for all of this, and I say at the beginning of all my videos, disclaimer, I'm a law student, anything that I say, any legal information I provide is not legal advice, etc., right? So this is not legal advice. The Supreme Court has said that if you say something, like if you voice general hate speech, right, like a general contempt for like black people or trans people or whoever in a public forum, the way to respond to that, at least at this point, is with other speech criticizing that original hate speech. So if you have someone like J.K. Rowling going out and saying like all of these transphobic things, or you have someone like Blaire White going out and voicing transphobic opinions, the correct response to that under the Supreme Court is to criticize that as openly and vocally as possible, period, right? So when these people, so like when Blaire, all right, let's bring this back into Blaire. Like when Blaire insinuates that, oh, people shouldn't dogpile on, you know, her and J.K. Rowling and so forth for having a contrary opinion, that's literally what the Supreme Court has said to do. So no, I think we're going to follow that precedent and, at least in our own little corner of the internet, continue to point out why what she's saying is objectively wrong and harmful. Let's keep going.
You're the odd man out, Ben O'Keefe. Shut the f up yourself. I just don't know how people can convince themselves that they are the good guys, that they're on the righteous side, that they're the ones really, like, that are positive, when they're responding saying, shut the f up, you transphobic cunt. Honestly, I feel like more and more the world is like, even more so than divided into left and right, conservative and liberal, the world is definitely right now divided into people who can have a meaningful, nuanced conversation about sensitive issues, and people who can't. That's it.
Blaire White criticizing culture for not allowing for, like, scientific and nuanced conversations. Okay.
That's the division I see these days. And listen, I'm not going to say that all trans people believe in the concept of biological sex and that there's no science denying trans people, because that's clearly not true. Clearly there are trans people who do feel that way. However, it's clearly not any type of consensus if underneath all these tweets of people calling J.K. Rowling transphobic are full of trans people disagreeing. So why is it that all these woke trans allies have convinced themselves that they know the one true narrative of being trans and they're going to defend it, even at the expense of trans people who are saying, no, that's not actually the truth?
All that we're advocating for is to follow majority scientific consensus. That's it. Just follow science. That's all. Nothing more, nothing deeper than that.
Y'all are clowns. Period.
Hold on. So, can someone screen cap this? Can someone screen cap and send me this? I want this to be an emote in my Discord. I really want this to be an emote. Blaire White clown. I want this. I want to have this. And also I want to make it into my thumbnail for this video. So someone, I'm gonna move on in about 3 seconds. So you have that long to take a screen cap of it, all right? 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's move on.
And then you have this tweet, which I found from one of J.K. Rowling's friends who is trans, saying, I have to say this, J.K. Rowling is one of the most supportive people I've ever met with regards to individual choices to be whoever they want to be. The fact that she seems to continuously be on the chopping block as anti-trans is absolute nonsense. Give her a break.
Ah, yes. a token trans person, not making a single argument, but just using their identity as a way to endorse this person who's being criticized with actual arguments. Okay.
So does this trans person who is a friend of J.K. Rowling, does this person's voice matter, or does George Takei and all the woke allies matter? Which is it? The truth is there absolutely is a nuanced conversation to be had about the fact that yes, there are lots of parallels between trans women and biological women. It's not like I'd be in a room full of biological women and have nothing in common with them, or be even the odd man out, like, no pun, I swear to God, no pun. Because the truth is I would be much more at home in a room full of women than I ever would a room full of men, obviously. However, there's room for intelligent, reasonable people to have a nuanced conversation about how there are clearly differences too. There are clearly...
Mind you, so far what she's saying, I don't technically disagree with. I just think it's laughable, again, that she's calling for, like, an intelligent, nuanced conversation, right? Because that's literally the last thing that she wants. If she was actually having or actually looking for an intelligent, nuanced conversation, she wouldn't have these beliefs. Because, like, where the majority scientific consensus is at is completely contrary to everything that she said so far, or at least everything that we've been talking about. Is there a conversation to be had about the similarities and differences between, like, trans and cis women, and then the same for trans men, and so on and so forth? Yeah, there is. But I'm just going to make it clear, she's framing this in a very disingenuous way right now, so I'm not going to give it too much credit.
The issue that biological women face that trans women will never face, and vice versa. And if we can't have that conversation like rational, mature adults without throwing out words like transphobia, you're a hater, you're a what is wrong with you guys? And this just jump to label anyone who has any nuanced opinion about transgenderism as transphobic creates way more backlash towards trans people than I think people realize. The conversation gets very muddy because people who are on the outside looking in at this whole fiasco happening, they really do think trans people are turning on J.K. Rowling and don't like J.K. Rowling anymore because they think J.K. Rowling is transphobic.
Yep. Can I just get the yes in chat? I just want to see. That's all I want to see right now is just yes in chat. Or at least I don't know. I don't think that that's wrong. I don't think that that's objectively wrong. I think that's pretty much right. Emma, thank you. Hold on. I'm pinning this. Pin. There we go. All right. Yeah. No, I don't think that's wrong. I think that, yeah, the majority consensus is that she's transphobic, and that's bad. Yep.
But I want you guys, the next time you hear someone talking about how transphobic someone is, please pay attention to who is saying it.
There we go.
I promise. 90% of the time, it's not even a trans person saying it. Because like I said, trans people...
Hi. My name is trans person. I'm saying it. Hello there.
People go through hell to be who they are. Trans people have faced adversity. I've gone through a lot. I don't know why this narrative is that I have never experienced transphobia, because I don't know. I don't know why. Why do people say that I don't experience...
No one says this. I'm sure you have. I actually feel sorry for you, because I feel like you experience more transphobia than the average trans person, because you associate primarily with people who are transphobic, right? So I actually feel kind of bad for you in this sense, because I know that you have. I don't actually know anyone who's made the argument that you don't experience transphobia. That's just a straw man.
Transphobia, or I can't relate to that. I have half my family who's disowned me for being trans. I think I know what transphobia looks like. And try as I might, and as many people are in my ear trying to tell me that J.K. Rowling was transphobic in these tweets, I'm not seeing it as a trans woman. And that's my genuine opinion. Whew. That was heated. Subscribe to this channel if you have not. I know you're gonna watch.
It's her genuine opinion. Okay. Don't subscribe to her, by the way. Please don't. Do the opposite of that and subscribe to me. Link below. But yeah, this is just, oh my god. This is just ridiculous, right? And also, I do want to say, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people, do I think that Blaire White, like, genuinely is a bad faith actor? Like, do I think that she's just lying for the sake of her own audience and just, like, completely grifting? It's hard to tell. I don't know. I feel like she is probably, like, a bit dense and genuinely believes the things that she's saying to some extent. But, like, let's be clear. A lot of her platform is specifically tailored for, like, a very particular kind of audience, right? So I do think that there is an element of, like, bad faith in there. And I'm not sure how much weight to ascribe the idea that this is representative of her genuine opinion. But regardless, it's the opinion that she put out, and it's a wrong one. And I think that we should all acknowledge as such.